Welcome, everyone. Glad to be with you today. I'm here with my good friend Terry. The doctor's in the house. And I'm Doug Kothe. I'm the founder and principal consultant of People Smart Group, as well as the founder of the Organizational Health Collective that we're both a part of, and that we're here to talk about organizational health. So over to you, Terry. Tell me about you.
Hey, Dr. Terry Wade, principal consultant for Generator Consulting and a member of the Organizational Health Collective. And I got to tell you that the Organizational Health Collective is a place where if you're a consultant just starting out in organizational health, or a consultant in general that wants to understand what organizational health is, joining us, we do some trainings and we really help each other with the different ins and outs of how to be a consultant. If you have problems with writing proposals, or you have problems with understanding how to go through the sales conversation, or you have you want to know how to actually serve your client better, Organizational Health Collective is the place where you can come to get the help. And that's what we want to do, and that's why we created it. And Doug, you just put up on the thing that June 5th we have another presentation, and I believe that's is that a paid or a free presentation?
This one is open, so this is a great way for people to actually jump in.
Come check it out.
First exposure.
Come check it out, because we want to be able to help the consultants that want to grow and really do value the organization and helping it to be healthier.
Yeah, and this one in particular is a friend of mine who's a CEO who he is coming on to share a CEO's perspective on building a healthy culture. And so who wouldn't want to hear from the insider as a consultant and hear, hey, this is what's hard about it. This is what's good about it. This is what it looks like for me coming from a CEO's perspective. What a way to prep the rest of us to say, hey, this is what CEOs need. This is the challenges they face. These are the things that I, as a consultant, can come in and say, hey, I'm here to help. How do I help you? And so
I know it would be a short presentation, but we should get someone that is a CEO that has terrible health in their company and have them just explain why organizational health is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure they'd come on though, right?
It's so bad.
Right. I built this mess. No, probably would have to be someone transitioning in that's taking over a mess, looking for, hey, well, this is what it looks like, and this is what the help we need. So, yeah, that'd be fabulous. I'd love to hear that one. Gosh, I wish we could get someone on for that. If you got any suggestions, people, let us know. We'd be glad to have that person on and get their perspective. So share that one with us.
We'd even give them some free tips on what they can do to turn it around.
Right. Seriously, we'll start the consulting right there on the monthly gathering while they're sharing. So we can turn that into a practical experience for both of us. So that would be awesome.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, today we are asking the question, man, employees, how do we keep them in this post-COVID era? Things have gotten a little haywire and hairy, and people have changed, and they look at their values and they say, hey, I don't know. I don't want to just go to any company and work for any company, or, hey, you know what? I just want to, I'm not sure I'm comfortable or like my current career, or, hey, I want things that actually match who I am. And there's a lot going on for employees. And so as an employer, we'll start there. How in the world, Terry, are we going to help employers to figure out how to keep these employees engaged or just even keep them employed?
Yeah.
Keep them there working hard.
Yeah. So, one of the first things that I think about is if you're having trouble keeping employees, it's a hiring problem. Because what I have seen is people hire for coverage, and then instead of culture, and as a result, the people who get jobs that are going to fulfill their money needs are mercenary at heart, looking for the next thing that's going to give them as much money as they can get for as little stress as they can have. And so they aren't bought in. And so then trying to manage a team with no buy-in is incredibly difficult.
For sure. Yeah. That's a great starting point, that reality that, hey, you got to have people who are actually here for a reason and have a purpose and have a desire to be here, not just for money, because money, there's always going to be someone that can offer more, right? Or there's always
Right.
going to be where discontent sets in and I can get equal amount, so I'm just going to go somewhere else because it's hard. Well, guess what? Life's hard. Work is
Yeah.
hard.
And
Things get hard.
it's interesting you say that because we work with a number of quick serve restaurants or fast food chains, things like that. Um, and we work with building the culture in there, and a lot of them are like, you can't find good people, or people don't stick around. And the reality is people aren't sticking around because the culture isn't a great fit and they didn't hire for culture. And
Yep.
so as a result, people don't necessarily feel seen, and they don't feel like they know where they're going with it. And so there's no real hooks into the person for them to have a reason to stay.
Yep.
And as a
Good.
result, you have a job mill, so to speak, and it just continues to, there's
Yeah.
revolving doors. It's one of
Yep.
those.
Yep.
They just go in and come out, go in and come out, go in and come out.
Yeah.
You got a
Well, and
bunch
you
of
were
people
charitable
going in,
there,
a
Terry.
bunch of people leaving.
You're charitable there because your underlying assumption of that was that they had a culture, that they had any intention with, so that the person didn't fit the culture. But some places their culture just plain sucks, and they have
Right.
been unintentional,
Well,
and they've
and
unintentionally created a culture where it's miserable to work.
and we've talked about accidental values, and it's accidental culture, and the accidental
Yep.
culture is basically we don't know what we were cultivating. Could be a little bit of mold in there, could be a little bit of disease,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
it is, but we've been growing that unintentionally rather
Yep.
than really paying attention to what this position or what this business is all about. And
Yeah.
so as a result, people don't really want to stick around. It's a stopping place on their way to whatever's next.
Yep. So it's not just about, hey, I want to pay the highest salary in the industry because that's going to keep my people, right? But that's how a lot of people think about it. Or the other one is, hey, we're going to have the best benefits, or hey, we're going to have bring your dog to work day, or we're going to have, we're going to have a restaurant on site at a corporate office,
Right.
as though that's going
And
to
that
keep you.
bring your dog to work day, I automatically have a resentment because I have cats. And so,
Right?
like, what
So you already
can I
caused a
bring my
problem.
cat and then see what happens?
Yeah.
It can take care of itself.
Oh
Then
gosh.
you got a bunch of dogs hidden in a little doorway, afraid to go out. But
And all the people with cat allergies are heading home sick.
right, exactly. And so
Uh,
there people have tried to solve the how do we keep them, our employees that is, uh for a long time. And I mean, we had the problem before COVID. COVID's just the newest rendition of, oh my God. And
yep.
everybody, quit working and became a coach. And so we have, tens of thousands of coaches, and luckily a lot of them are going back to work now, realizing that maybe they shouldn't be a coach. But
Right.
I'm on fire today. But
You are. Equal opportunity offender today, Terry.
but I think that a lot of people got disillusioned with work because the businesses themselves have not thought about what they're really about, and they haven't thought about how to get employees engaged. And as a result, they leave, and it starts, everybody in this uproar, and the can't find good people, it's hard to keep good people, and none of that's true.
Yeah.
None of
Yep.
it's true. It's really easy to find good people, but you have to be intentional about finding good people.
Yep.
And it's not difficult to find or keep them once you find them, if you create a culture that makes them excited about being there.
Yep. Which
It's
is
like, create a really bad B movie or maybe a C movie and see how many people are going to go and watch.
right. Nobody.
You're going to have them all leave.
Right.
They
Yeah. The fact
show up
that
because the
the
title
creator
might
and
be
their
good,
family
but
are there.
yeah, And so it's the same thing with a job. If people aren't interested, or and Mike Rowe, I think Mike Rowe is his last name,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, did Dirty Jobs, and one of the
Yep.
things that he found is that people might have some dirty jobs, but if there's a purpose behind it and they
Yep.
feel fulfilled in it, they'll do the dirty job. And so
Yep.
it's not about how hard the job is or how dirty the job is or how bad the job is. It's
Yep.
about what they experience purpose wise as they're doing it.
Hmm. So I would venture, as we're talking about this, and I would venture you'd agree with this, is that the at the core of it is a misunderstanding of people.
Absolutely.
We think people are motivated by the wrong things. We think money is the motivator when that's really just a sustainer. It's like, hey, if I have enough to live, I'm good. What I really need is things like purpose. What I really need is a place of camaraderie where I actually share values with other people and I feel like I belong. There's that sense of belonging. And there's that transcendent purpose that goes beyond just, hey, me or the company, but hey, we're doing this for a why. We've got a bigger reason. And that's what drives people's hearts, not the little bit more money or the benefits. Now, obviously, if they don't have enough money, they're jumping ship. It doesn't really matter how tied into the purpose they are. They got to provide, right? And so
Absolutely.
you gotta get them to the sustainable point. But at the same time, that's not what keeps them. That's not what closes the back door.
Right, absolutely. And one of the I got two things here. One is on the money piece, working with the quick serve restaurants, they all pay about the same, and they're all at the lower end where people are just getting into the workforce, or um, having some kind of issue with life that they have to get back into the workforce, and this is where they're at to build skills, or whatever. And so they're all getting paid around the 14, 15 minimum,
Yep.
insanely high minimum wage that exists these days, but they're all walking in at that level. Now they don't either have the skills or they don't have the resume to get the really higher paying jobs. So across the board, that's where they're going.
Yep.
They're not quitting there's someplace like Starbucks at $15 an hour to go to a $30 an hour job. I mean, there are some people that do that. But for the most part, if they're quitting that $15 or $16 an hour job, they're going to go get another one.
Yep.
They're not going up, they're going across. And
Right.
they're all basically looking for a place where they matter.
Yep. Yep. And the
And
ones that are
what
going
they
up, hey, either
doing
they should have
feels
gone
like
up.
matter.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that are going up should have either gone up in your own organization to become managers or to move on up in that zone, or they're going to move on anyway because you've done a good enough job giving them the skills, equipping them, and preparing them for something that they were really looking to go next step to. And so that's
And
fine. Those people you want to go because you want to say, hey, I did a great job equipping you and preparing you, and we sent you
yes,
off.
yes.
It's
And
people that
that's
leave because they're not happy with you to go for those parallel transfers that you're sitting there going, really?
right. And that's one of the things that Christine and I really do when we go into any of these quick serve restaurants we work with. What we do is we actually help them put a management process in place that is succession planned. And so we help them understand how when you get in at the ground level, this is the couple of things you need to do to move up the next level, and this is a couple of things you need to do to move up the next level. This is the stuff you do to get into being some kind of manager, assistant manager, or management, assistant manager, manager of the place, and then
Yep.
district manager. And so there's a nice way to actually measure and know where you're at in that process. And we teach businesses how to actually install that. And we do that because there's a couple of things that people really need to understand when they're looking at employee engagement, and that's they need to have three things. And Lencioni talks about this in his book,
Yep.
The Three Signs of a Miserable Job, or whatever, the truth about employee engagement now.
Right. Yeah.
But
The positive
if
version
you
of that.
don't, if they're not known in the company, they don't matter. And so that's
Yep.
like anonymity is the idea. If anonymity breeds indifference is what Lencioni talks about, and I believe familiarity breeds connection.
Mm, yeah.
And so irrelevance kills ambition. And so if you don't know why you're doing it, and I actually wrote a chapter in a book with a guy named Larry Wingett that talks about this. Is like, I'm hitting the button. I don't know why I'm hitting the button. I am not going to continue to hit the button if I don't know why I'm doing it.
Yep.
And I sit here to hit the button that I'm not receiving anything for it. I don't know what it's doing. It's just hitting the button. I'm going to stop doing it. And then that goes back to the measurability, which is the third issue, is if we can't measure it, we don't know why we're doing it. And I go back to when I used to drive from LA up to Portland. I'd be watching the mileage and how far I'm going and how long it's going to take. And that's just one example of measurability, is like every 10 miles or 20 miles or 50 miles, I'm paying attention to where I'm at and my speed and how quick I'm getting there. I want to know when I'm going to get there. I want to know how far I got to go to get there.
Right.
I want the goal. And we're all kind of goal driven. And so if somebody doesn't have a goal in mind of what they're doing, they become disillusioned quickly. And so if you don't have a measurable goal in what that next step is or where I'm going, their next step is out the door.
Yep. And an important piece for that we talk about all the time, right? And Lencioni talks about is a lot of jobs, people go, well, how would I measure that? I don't have a set measure. I don't have a way of saying, hey, this is what, and that's where it takes a manager who's thinking it through and being creative and saying, okay, well, what are the goals that we can set for you? What are the places that you're being successful if you accomplish X? And working together with your employee on that to say, I love in his book, he has the person who's the drive-through window person, and the purpose that they don't have any control over how quick the kitchen gets the food out. They don't have any control. The things they don't have control over, you can't measure them on. So the measurement became, okay, how many smiles can you get out of the people that come up? I loved it, because here you are, you're basically saying your job here is customer service. Your job here is to interact with the people. Your job here is to make them feel seen, heard, and to just engage them in a way that's fun. And so if you can get them to smile, if you can get it, that we mark that off as a success. And now you've got something to measure. And no one would think of that for, hey, that's my KPI. But in another sense, it's like, hey, that's actually a success, because you now have a joyful customer sitting at your window. No matter how long the food takes, they're engaged with your person in a way that they're like, hey, this isn't so bad. I get to talk to him. We're having fun.
Absolutely. And we actually operationalized the Hungry, Humble, Smart. And so we actually, when we're teaching a company or one of the fast food chains we're working with, franchisees, hiring, we operationalize Hungry, Humble, Smart and make sure that that's how they're measuring people. And if they're not doing well with people smart or emotional intelligence, then they need to have a conversation around that and help the person understand how they can actually be more emotionally intelligent or humble. How can they be more humble? Or less
How do I do that?
self-consumed, I guess. How can they be more hungry, and how can they demonstrate that? And we operationalize it so people can actually measure that. And it's company wide. And so if you're at the drive-through or you're cooking a burger, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You know how to actually pay attention to that, and then the skills take care of themselves a little bit, because if you can't do it, then you're gonna probably implode in one of the other three areas. Your hunger is going to go down if you can't do the job. And so they'll show up. And so we really focus on that quite a bit. And then skills, of course, we pay attention to. But if you're in a marketing company and you can't actually make a marketing message, then hopefully you can make
essentially permission to play, right?
And so pay attention to just skills, but it's really what's operationalized in how you actually work together and how you're seen, and really pay attention to, is the job relevant? Is the job measurable for the next step in line? And then finally, do we know you? And I think the Hungry, Humble, Smart really goes to the paying attention and the connection in the relationship. And so when we're paying attention to those things, I find that the employee engagement goes up quite a bit, and the retention goes up quite a bit, and losing people kind of disappears.
Yeah.
So
So
I was actually gonna say one of the things that you were saying, money doesn't keep people, and I am a stage hypnotist in my spare time, and I have a good time doing it. But one of the skits that I learned from a colleague of mine is the idea of having somebody stuck to their chair.
mm,
And the idea is when I'm doing the hypnosis shows, I either do them for fundraisers for fun, and I have a good time, and I make a little bit of money, but I give a lot of the money to the and we charge money for the tickets, and then that's how the fundraiser makes money. But the other thing that we do is I go into corporations and give a vision goal kind of conversation around visualizing your goals,
mm,
and what you visualize uh, tends to have you move towards it. And so if you can visualize your goals, you move
yep.
towards them. But the problem is that people think they're visualizing their goals. They're visualizing um, destruction, or they're visualizing things falling apart, or they're visualizing uh, something other than what they think they are.
Yep.
And so we actually do a very dramatic demonstration by hypnotizing a few people for the group. And then one of the skits we do is, because money's so important, okay, I'll give you $100 if you can grab it, but you're stuck to the chair, so you can't get out of your chair. You want this $100,000 or $100, but you're stuck to the chair. And the more you try to get out of that chair, the more you can't. Try to grab the money, and they can't get out of the chair because they're
Yeah.
hypnotized and they're stuck to the chair. And
Right.
so the dramatic demonstration is, we think that the money is a motivator, but the idea they're stuck to the chair is
Mm,
what they're visualizing. And so they're visualizing where they're stuck much easier than grabbing money.
yeah.
And so when we start to look at, well, it's the money that's keeping them. No, it's not. It's the
Yeah.
sticky thing that's keeping them.
Right.
And so if
Yep.
we make the culture sticky,
Yep.
people will stay.
Yeah.
But if we focus on the money too much, we think everybody's leaving for money, but we're looking at the wrong thing.
Yep. So quick sum up there is we're hitting, hey, you close the back door by having that sticky culture that people really want to be a part of. And so establishing a good culture, a culture that's built around, hey, why do we exist? How do we behave? That those things are vitally essential, that people buy into what we're doing. Those things are vitally important, and that we're empowering people to actually be a part of the process, making decisions, and we're giving them a sense of purpose, giving them a sense of, hey, I'm accomplishing something toward that purpose. Those sort of things we need. That closes the back door, and so you have to build a strong culture within your company, or you're never going to not have people walking out the back door. They're going to come in, they're going to be dissatisfied, and they're going to leave. So you can close the back door that way. The front door we talked about early on is, hey, once you've got that culture in place, you've got to hire to the culture. You got to
Yes,
stop just hiring because they got the right skills. You actually have to think through, do they fit our culture? Because if they do, they will stay. If they do, they will be happy here. If they do, they're going to want to be here, and they're going to be more productive. But if they don't, they might be the most skilled person in the world at what we do, but they're going to come in and they're going to lose any sort of energy, any sort of excitement about what they're doing, because they don't fit and they're a mismatch and they're in a place they don't like. And
exactly.
so their
I was
productivity is
having
going to
a
go through the floor, or they're
exactly.
going
I was
to
having a
become so
conversation.
selfish they ruin it for everyone else.
I was having a conversation with somebody the other day that and I was actually talking about cultural fit. And what they said is, cultural fit is great, but that doesn't attribute to growth. And I
Mm,
was like, that makes a lot of sense. And as we were talking, it's really, we want to hire not for cultural fit as much as to add to the culture.
mm,
And so it's an additive thing. How is this person, their attitude, their outlook, their hunger, their humility, their people skills, how are they
yep,
adding to the culture to build it even better?
yep,
And so I've actually made a shift in how I talk about that. And it's not about a cultural fit, it's about cultural add. And
mm,
we really want to start seeing that. And so when Christine and I are working with companies and when we're building our management team and that type of thing, what we're looking for is not people who fit, but people who are going to bolster, people who are going to add to.
Yep.
Because the fact of the matter is, if you get a bunch of people fit, that you get it there, but there's no movement forward. And
Right.
so we want to see things continue to grow and to innovate and continue to morph into something even better.
Yeah. Yep. Which is, you're bringing me to the third piece. I think we hit on all the time, right? We talk about those of us in the Patrick Lencioni tree of consultants that we tend to use similar wording and thoughts, and we talk about the teamwork trifecta. We're closing the back door by building that great culture, by building strong teams, by building all that. We're doing the front door by having the values conversation, right? And so you talked about that whole, hey, what are our humble, hungry, smart? What are our values? How are we hiring to that? And that you're someone that, I love the way you said that, builds that up. Now, if I hire that person and I get them in and they're doing a job description and they don't seem to quite be the right fit for the job description, I don't want to get rid of them, because they're such a great fit and they're so additive. And that's where that third piece comes in, that we often use the Six Working Genius model to help people with that, of saying, hey, well, let's find a fit for you that's right, that you can help this company take off.
Absolutely.
And let's make sure we have your whole team in the right fit, in the right space. And so that you get, so kind of that Jim Collins thing of, you get the right people on the bus, then you got to get them in the right seats on the bus. And then you got to keep them from going out the back door of the bus, right? So we're keeping them out of the back door. We're getting them on the bus. Now we got to put them in the right seats. And sometimes you got to redefine those seats. Our job descriptions aren't always so pretty and so neat, and we think they are. We come up with these wonderful sounding job descriptions that somebody's supposed to be Superman to fill. Because they're going to be detail oriented, but they're going to be pie in the sky thinkers. Yeah, no, they're not. They can't be both. You got to pick one, right? And so we oftentimes, once we have the right people on the bus, we've got to tweak the job descriptions to fit the people we got, so we can excel.
Yes.
And that's that other piece, that you're going to demoralize your people if you constantly keep them in a slight mismatch or a total mismatch of a role, even though they're a perfect fit for your culture.
100%.
Perfectly skilled.
Absolutely. And when we do that, what we start to do is we refine our team into a well-oiled machine that everybody wants and nobody really knows how to do. And unfortunately, what tends to happen is people don't know how to refine and build the people. And so what they do is they keep letting go and then bringing in until they can, like Legos, find the right piece that fits, or puzzle. And it's not a puzzle. It's really about growing everyone by being much more intentional and much more communicative, and really having the people come in and be honest about what they really get joy from, what they really excel at, what they really want to do. And be very, very particular when you're hiring about what you're really looking for. And are you the person who can do that? Or are you the person who's saying you can do that because you really want a job and think this is the one for you?
Yep. And to do that, again, I'm hearing you say that about, you got to be really specific and you got to hire the right people. And so often people handle the interview process, if you're worried about getting the right people, you treat it like it's a date. And so you're trying to put your best foot forward and they're trying to put their best foot forward, and there's no candor. And we'll talk there about, you got to scare them with candor. You got to basically lay out, here's who we are. And if you don't like it, you're going to be miserable here. Here's the way we're going to operate together. Here's how we live. This is our culture. This is what we do. And guess what? I'm going to scare away through that the people who don't fit, but I'm going to get really excited the people who do. And so that interview process has to be a place of vulnerability. It has to be a place of honesty and openness. It can't be a place of, well, we want to hide our cards until we know that we've got the right person, and then we can tell all the other people they're not the right person. No, I want to scare you off quick. I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on you if you don't fit my culture and you don't fit who we are as a company.
It's funny. I was just talking to or listening to a real estate coach, but he calls himself a coach, but he coaches people. But what he was talking about was actually doing deals in a lease to own kind of situation. And one of the people that was listening was a lawyer. And she was like, well, I know somebody who's a lawyer who ended up in litigation over a bunch of these.
Mhm.
And he said the very same thing you're talking about, which is why I'm bringing it up, is he said, we really, when we're going through the process of leasing or doing a lease option, we scare them with all of the facts and scare them out of doing the deal because we don't want litigation and we don't want flakes and we don't want people who don't understand what they're getting into when they get into this. And so we really focus on up front making sure they know 100% with stadium lighting what
Yep.
they're walking into.
Yep.
Because when we do that, we tend to have 99% follow through with the people who are doing these lease options. And lease option is basically a rent to own kind of thing.
Yep.
If you think about it, and leasing the house with the option to buy it. And he said, we don't end up in litigation ever because our process and how thorough we are with making sure that they understand exactly what we're doing. And I think
Well,
that if people were
yep.
doing that with their hiring, they'd hire a lot less people, but they keep them.
Yep. Well, and your analogy helps there too in the terms of the legal side, right? Because if you're a large corporation, even a mid-sized corporation, you got to worry about all the HR procedures. How do you get rid of someone? Well, I got to give them warnings and I got to tell them this and I got to walk through all this. Well, guess what? If you didn't hire the wrong person, you wouldn't have the headache of having to walk the long road of getting rid of them. And so this is like saving so much time, energy, and money. Hey, we're investing so much into the wrong person, and then we get to fire them, and then we get to go back and find a new one. It's like people want to go, oh, is there value in this kind of consulting and this kind of bringing you on to help me figure out my hiring and my onboarding? Well, yeah, because guess what?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're going to be in this miserable long process of offboarding someone, and then you're going to have to come back and spend all the money you have to do to recruit and hire and onboard and get someone up to speed, productivity
Yeah.
wise.
And it's not about having good HR because, yeah, that's good. HR is about covering your butt,
Yeah.
making sure that you're safe and your company's safe and that you're not going to have any problems if an employee is having problems.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is proactively how to build a team. And the best way to do it is to hire somebody who knows how to, and when I say hire, I mean partner with a consultant that
Yep.
knows how to actually put a team together and
Yeah.
helps you put a hiring system in place that isn't HR, but
Right.
is more of a very thoughtful, integrated way to bring people on and coach them to your culture and coach them to add to your culture and then make sure that everybody is singing the same song on the
Yep.
bus in the right seat
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
excited
Yep.
about being there.
Yep. Yeah, that very thing. We talk about it either as a teamwork trifecta or there's other terminology we might use to that, or the getting the right people on the bus in the right seats on the bus and keeping them on the bus, right? Either way, however you want to roll with that. But the vital piece of that is, hey, you got to build that to have productive culture. You got to build that to have productive people who stick around. You don't want your best people walking out the back door. You don't
Absolutely.
want the people who are the greatest contributors leaving, and you've got to start the productivity build over again. Or I've got a new person, I've got to get to that point of productivity. If I even manage with that person, I got to hire the right person even to get there. And that may take 3, 4 hires if I'm not doing well on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've hit the nail on the head on this one. But I will say one last thing is that if you don't pay attention to this and you don't really start focusing on how to build that team that way, the people who are leaving first are your high performers and the people you really want to keep. The people who really you don't like, they're never going to leave because they don't need to.
Yep. Well said. Well said. So, final question maybe for you, Terry. I'm the CEO, or I'm the owner of a business, or I'm whatever. I'm in that leadership role, And I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm thinking, okay, so you tell me there's three things. I got to hire and onboard better. I've got to build the right culture to be able to keep the people from going out the back door. And then with that, I've got to figure out, okay, how do I arrange the seats and how do I make sure the seats are the right seats? And then the people are in the right seats. I can't just have willy-nilly job descriptions, but I probably need to cater those a little bit to the right people and putting them in the right places. And so, I just heard you say us say that all that, and I say, okay, great, I'm overwhelmed. Where do I start with this?
Yeah, and I would say start with clarity of what you're all about. Why does your business exist? And why would people want to work? Why do you want to work for you? And then why would other people want to work for you? What's attractive about it? And how the second question, that's the first question, why do you exist? The second question is how do we behave? And what are the behaviors that's going to show us our culture? And those are the two questions that you want to really start with. I
Yep.
mean, there's the other four to equal out 6 questions of clarity, but those two are really where you want to start to really identify how to grow. And if you want help with that, call Doug, call me,
Yep.
call anybody in the Organizational Health Collective.
Yep.
One of us can help, and we want to do that. That's what we're about, is helping people build their businesses through their
Yep.
people.
Yep. That's great. And our starting point, just like Terry said, is going to be we got to build that internal culture first, because you can't bring people into a culture if you don't know what it is, and you can't keep them in if you haven't built it. So
Exactly.
you got to really start with that building clarity and that building cohesion, and we can go from there. And we would love to help you guys. And again, reminder for those of you that might be interested, we've got the upcoming gathering in June. I'm going to give you a little video on the outtake here, and we'll show you that, and we will see you next time. We're so grateful you joined us. Thanks so much, and we will see you next time. Here we go.